what I have set up here, as you'll see, you can ignore this channel. This is just me talking into the mic and it being captured. So I'm just going to throw it over here. What I have right now is I have my Kemper and a guitar, and I'm running it straight into the into my audio interface. On top of that, I have a direct out from my Kemper. So it's essentially what if you put a direct box in your input or something like that. That's what's coming in. And so you can hear both the direct signal right now, which sounds like bad, or the Kemper output right now, which is this. Bit more full. So what's really cool about doing reamping is, one, I can monitor what the guitar actually sounds like, ideally, through an amp with this setup. So I'm not trying to get all the picking dynamics and things. That's still coming from the amp. But when I come and I come in here and I decide, just goofy, I'm going to throw a quick click track on top of everything here. Just for fun. And I'm going to turn this down a bit so it's not super loud. But when it comes time to actually record something, so nothing too crazy. What you're actually hearing right now is what I actually recorded is just this, the direct feed. Now, what's cool about this is I can reamp, which is essentially I can take any direct feed I got, send it back to the amp, in this case I'm using a Kemper, let the Kemper run its profile, do the amp sounds over it, and transform it into something that actually sounds good without crazy latency, and also I'm not doing any overhead on the CPU right now. So this, even on playback, you'll notice this channel suddenly starts getting audio. Actually, it's not yet. The reason for that is because I'm outputting right now to my sound card. If I grab this now and I send this, shoot, hang on a second. This is what happens when your buses don't get assigned right. Now those right things will show up in my outputs. Joys of an aggregate sound card. So now, if I can put out over, this is using what's called SPDIF connector. Now if I play that back through the Kemper, you'll notice I'm playing here, and actually my input on my Kemper is getting sound. Should be getting sound. Mess this up. I have their channel, right? Oh, hang on. Okay, now I have it set up correctly. That was something I had wrong on my Kemper. So now, now my Kemper is receiving this sound. So if I actually mute this channel again, it kills this song too, or it kills that signal too. And so if I go back here now, I don't even have to have that input monitoring anymore. Just kind of keep playing. That's this channel coming in now. And the other beautiful part about this is now I can bring up things like, this is my Kemper editor. It's hanging a little bit on me right now, but what I can go in here is I can adjust anything in my amp settings after I've already recorded it. I didn't have to dial this in perfectly to get the right kind of performance. And so if I was really, you know, this is a pretty vanilla signal, and so if I want something with a little more heat on it and a little more chime, I could probably come in here and just load up something else. Like this is a profile for a matchless. And now we have a different sound. What's more, if I'm like, all right, I need also on this, I'm going to throw some delay. I can go into some of my just presets here that I have, like just something fun. The other fun part is my guitar just works still. So I can be... should work, but it's not, because I'm not input monitoring correctly. So, with input monitor on now, I can still run. Into that, because of the way this reamp sets up with this. So now I have a delay. And, you know, let's throw some reverb on too. Just something fun. And I want to throw a compressor on to clean this up a little bit. And I also want to throw a tube screamer in for some tone and shaping. So now, that's my amp sound. So now I can come back here, play this guy. And it's nice and full and fantastic now. So now I can come in here, I can cut this track now, record it. And now I have a nice replay track that will work for me forever, because this still sounds like butt. So I can come back to it. Now there's a reason I threw the click on, and that's just so I have a grid snap. You'll notice I was a little early on that note, I was a little late on this one, and I was a little late on this one. I can actually clean this up now. And these are identical tracks, but you'll see because I'm running it through so much distortion and compression and everything, it's a much mellower track, or it's a much more even waveform now than my transient direct box. What happens now is if I go into a tool like Beat Detective and I want to clean this audio up, right? So I'm going to run an analyzer on it. It's going to kind of struggle to find where the beats are. It just is. Whereas if I go in here, oh, well, helps when I have the sensitivity up. This is almost perfect. It's just grabbing it right away. These are when I hit those notes. In here, it's still picking them up pretty well. But if I were to go something more rhythmic, it would probably be all kind of over the place. So one of the other pluses is when I'm doing this whole routine, since this is so transient, Beat Detective works way better. So it's easier to record a DI, edit all the rhythmic stuff that you're trying to clean up, get yourself back on beat using something like this, and you know the quick smooth and fast. And just check out my other video for this if you need a tutorial on how all this works. But that was the wrong command, which I also discussed in the video. That's the correct one. So now this is all on beat. So we get this nice clean audio signal now. I can now turn around and I'm going to mute this track, but I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm just going to record a new take on this one. So now that I fixed my DI, this can turn around and actually record properly. So let's rerun that. And now we have this nice, clean, edited process of where it's all on beat and it's all sounding perfect. So that's the fun part about using a DI and then retracking it or reamping it effectively. Now, I'm using the Kemper. This makes life really easy. The other options you have are using things like a reamp box and DI. So you could plug straight into your audio card and get whatever you need out of it. You could run a virtual rig, something like the Waves PRS plugins that I like to use a lot. Native Instruments guitar rig, any of the, I'm blanking on their name right now, but there's tons of different options here. The difficulty with just a Kemper rig is when you send the direct back, it only goes into the Kemper, and so anything in your effects loop can get run. And so if you want to run effects in front of the amp, you'd have to run your effects loop differently in the way the Kemper's set up. Or effectively, you could run a proper reamp rig, which takes a XLR or a TRS line level out, kicks it to you have a reamp box, and that reamp box converts and steps down line back to instrument level and impedance, and so it just has a 1/4 inch out, and you plug that into the front of your signal chain. That's another option. If you're using Waves or something like that, you just pop up the editor as a plugin, start editing it, do what you need to do. So you have tons of different options, but really the best thing you can do right now, with all this technology available to you, and thing you got to kind of rethink, is you don't actually have to dial in your tone right away. What you should be doing is, you can't change your guitar's out of tune without doing like Waves tune or auto tune or something like that. That's difficult. You can't change the pickup that you're using, those kind of things, those downstream effects. So there's no way you record everything on the neck pickup and you want to go back to the bridge pickup. You got to cut a new track. But by getting good DIs, and you turn around and you say, that's kind of bright, and I don't want to EQ it. I want to actually fix it on the amp. Or, hey, my delays are off, or we could use more compression, or those kind of things in the actual take. It lets you actually retake that again and get the perfect mic'd setup, whatever you're doing, whether you're doing it with impulse responses, whatever you're doing. And then the tools that we have there, those plugins that give you an okay guitar tone that don't use a lot of computer power, use those for tracking so you're still hearing yourself right. But it doesn't have to be perfectly dialed in. Just get what you're playing on paper, so that we can edit it, we can fix the rhythm, we can see where it sits in the mix, or we can write this. You can actually write your parts out really quickly with these tools, and then come back and say, is a Fender amp the right thing? Is a Vox amp the right thing? Should I be using a matchless? Do we want to have a screaming Marshall over top of it? Whatever fits the song, we can go back and redo it without saying, all right, we need to bring 18 amps in and recut the entire track. So that's the cool part. Anyway, have fun.